My name is Linda Reynolds. I am 59 years old, a widow, and I live in a peaceful neighborhood in Oregon. I have been working as an office administrator at a law firm for nearly 20 years. I raised two children, Sarah, my daughter who just turned 32, and Jason, my son who is 29. I have devoted most of my adult life to ensuring they never experienced the hardships I faced. Last Tuesday, I received an email that turned everything upside down. It came from Sarah with no subject line, just her name in my inbox. I smiled before opening it, hoping it was a brief update or sweet message before her big day. We had talked about her wedding plans just a few weeks ago. I had already contributed $30,000 to help her book the venue, secure a photographer, and reserve the florist she had adored since college. But when I read the email, my smile disappeared. It began with Mom. No, dear Mom, only her name as a simple label. Sarah explained that she, along with her fiancé Michael and his family, had finalized the guest list for their ceremony in Napa Valley. After much consideration, they decided it was best for me to watch the wedding online rather than attend in person. She added that Michael's mother was very particular about the number of guests, wanting to keep the celebration intimate. At the end, she wrote a line that felt like salt on an open wound. If you want to be part of it, you can watch through the Google Meet link we've created. It should be just like being there, LOL. I stared at the screen for a long time. My coffee grew cold. My hands remained still. I trembled, but did not shed a tear. Something inside me shifted silently, as if the earth beneath had cracked open, yet I remained upright. I responded with precisely 4 words. Sure. Enjoy your big day. No emotion, no debate, only a quiet retreat. Deep inside, I understood those 4 words would resonate far louder than any outcry. I did not want to argue. I did not want tears. What I sought was clarity, a silence that could convey everything without sound. I closed the laptop, finished my now cold coffee, and prepared for work as if it was just another typical Tuesday. But it was not. That day marked the moment I stopped pretending that my sacrifices held any meaning for my daughter. That day was the beginning of everything changing. The drive to the office that morning was silent. Oregon's early spring air still carried a chill, though I barely noticed. My thoughts kept returning to the same question. How did we reach this point? I had spent 18 years employed at Caldwell Walker Law. It was not glamorous, but it offered stability. Stability was essential after my husband's sudden death when the children were teenagers. I recall standing by our old washing machine, bills scattered across the counter, trying to figure out how to cover both groceries and Sarah's upcoming college deposit. Back then, I never hesitated to give up my weekends. I accepted extra shifts, canceled vacations, and missed birthdays. I kept telling myself there would be time for me later, but that time never arrived. Every coin I saved went towards Sarah and Jason. When Sarah changed her major twice and I ended up covering more bills when she relocated across the country for a brief job opportunity. In New York, I paid for her deposit and purchased her plane ticket. When she was devastated after her second breakup at 27, I traveled there, held her hand, and made her tea in a kitchen that never felt like home. When Jason decided to buy a house with his fiancée, I co-signed the mortgage and without hesitation wrote the first $10,000 check. I never kept track of these things. That is what mothers do, isn't it? But that email made me feel like I was a mere transaction, as if I had been useful only for a time, and now that time was over, like my usefulness had an expiration date. Back in the office, my supervisor, David, stopped by my desk. He is one of those uncommon men who remembers birthdays and how you prefer your coffee. He immediately noticed something was wrong. "You look like you've seen a ghost," he said, as he placed a latte from the cafe downstairs on my desk. I wanted to tell him everything, to say my daughter had just excluded me from her wedding, but instead I smiled and said I hadn't slept well. He didn't pry. That small gesture of kindness, the coffee, the silence nearly broke me. After the chaos in my mind that morning, it reminded me that I still existed and that I still mattered, even if only in a quiet, unnoticed way. Around noon, my phone started buzzing. It was Sarah again. Her name flashed on my screen like a spotlight. I didn't want to hear the voicemails or read the texts. "Mom, please answer. We need to talk. This isn't a joke." I didn't listen to any of them. Not yet. I just sat there sipping my latte and thought maybe it was time to face what was coming. Stop being the person who always responds. Maybe it is time to stop playing a part in someone else's narrative when they refuse to give you a role on their stage. That afternoon, I made a choice that would change everything around me. I decided not to raise my voice or plead. Instead, I chose to take an action that held far greater power. After work, I did not head straight home. I drove to First Federal Bank, a few blocks away from the office. James, the branch manager, had assisted me with everything, from setting up college funds to adjusting retirement plans. He always welcomed me by name. "Mrs. Reynolds," he said cheerfully, standing up to shake my hand. "What can I help you with today?" I sat down opposite him and put my purse on the floor. My tone was steady, almost unnervingly calm. "I need to cancel a wire transfer," I stated. He blinked in surprise. "The one to the Napa venue?" "Yes, that one." James hesitated. "There might be a cancellation fee depending on the timing, but may I ask why?" "The situation has changed," I answered, without giving any more details. He checked something on his screen. "You are in luck. It has not been processed yet. Just in time." He paused, then looked up at me. "Are you certain? Mrs. Reynolds, $50,000 is a considerable sum." I nodded with conviction. That was the amount I planned to send next, in addition to the $30,000 already sent, totaling $80,000. For a wedding I was not allowed to attend. I signed all the necessary forms and left the bank without a second thought. By the time I arrived home, there were 9 missed calls from Sarah and 2 from Jason. One voicemail simply said, "Mom, please do not do this." I switched off my phone. In the kitchen, I reached for the bottle of red wine I had been saving for Thanksgiving, but had not opened back then. Sarah had planned to visit but canceled at the last moment due to work, she had said. I poured myself a glass, took it out to the porch, and settled into the fading sunlight. Birds were singing in the trees, a neighbor's dog barked, and everything felt calm. Then memories began flooding in like waves. All the birthdays I had organized alone. All the holiday dinners when I pretended I wasn't waiting for a call that never came. The small sacrifices that went unnoticed. The new shoes I never bought. The car I drove for 14 years. The vacations I postponed. I thought about Michael's mother, who scarcely knew Sarah, yet her opinions seemed to carry more weight than mine. She believed family meant excluding the one person who had supported Sarah through every tough moment. I recalled how Sarah ended her emails with LOL, as if watching her own daughter's wedding unfold on a screen was some kind of joke. Finally, I reflected on myself, not as a mother or a widow, but simply as a woman. What did I want? Peace, dignity, A life not centered around being useful to those who showed up only when they needed something. Around 9 o'clock that evening, the doorbell rang. I considered ignoring it, but curiosity got the best of me. It was time to face whatever awaited. Jason was still wearing his office clothes, his sleeves rolled up and his tie loosened. He appeared uneasy, clutching his phone in one hand as if it were a shield. "Mom," he said as he stepped inside before I could say a word, "why aren't you answering your phone? Sarah is really upset." I closed the door calmly. "Hello to you too," I replied. He sighed and began pacing. "She says you're not coming to the wedding now, that you're being difficult." I chuckled. Difficult for not going to a wedding? I had been uninvited. He shifted uncomfortably. "Michael's parents are covering most of the expenses, Mom. You know how traditional they are." I raised an eyebrow. Traditional? I had already paid $30,000 and was about to contribute $50,000 more. That was not tradition. That was control. He froze. "Wait, you were planning to send another $50,000? I said, sipping my wine, but not anymore. Jason's face turned pale. "Mom, they're counting on that money for the venue and the food." I replied calmly, "That is no longer my concern." His voice grew louder. "Of course it is your problem. She is your daughter, and I am her mother," I said quietly. A mother who was told to stay home and watch everything through a screen. Running his hands through his hair, visibly frustrated, he snapped, "You always make everything about yourself." That was the breaking point. The moment something inside me snapped. "Get out of my house. You heard me, Jason. Get out!" "Mom, no," he said quietly. "I have given all I could, and I refuse to be the villain in this story that I wrote with love." He stood there for a moment longer before turning and quietly walking out the door. I heard a quiet click behind me, but somehow it sounded louder than any door slamming. I stood in the center of my living room, my heart racing, and then a surprising realization hit me. I did not feel guilty. Instead, I felt liberated. The following morning, I awoke to 43 missed calls, accompanied by a flood of desperate messages from Sarah. At first, they were a mix of passive aggression and frustration. "Mom, we need to talk. Why are you acting like this? This is so childish." Then, the tone became more urgent. "The venue just contacted us. The payment failed. We will lose everything if we don't make the payment by tomorrow. Michael's parents are furious. They claim this only confirms they were right about you." At 3:24 a.m., she sent, "I cannot understand why you are doing this to me." I smiled as I sipped my coffee. Of course she did not understand. Sarah had grown up with my sacrifices deeply embedded in her world, never questioning where the safety and comfort came from. She simply assumed it would always exist, that I would always be present. But this time was different. Later that day, while I was going over contracts at my desk, a new email appeared in my personal inbox. The subject read, "Please do not ruin my wedding." I clicked it, not expecting much. "Mom," it said, "I know you are upset about the live stream issue, but this has gone too far. We have lost the venue deposit, and if we do not pay the remaining balance by the end of the day, Paris time, the caterer will cancel. Michael's parents are extremely angry. They say this proves you cannot be trusted." I tried to reason with them, saying, "Please do not do this. We can discuss your attending the ceremony, but we need the funds first." There it was. They were open to discussing letting me come. Now that the money was no longer available, not an apology nor any reflection. a deal. As if my attendance at my own daughter's wedding could be bargained, bought, or traded based on how generous I felt. I said nothing. I closed the email and returned to my work. Around midday, David stopped by my desk and said, "Lunch." The new Italian restaurant just opened. I almost declined as usual, but something inside changed. Maybe it was the clarity gained over the past 24 hours. Maybe I simply needed a place that demanded nothing from me. So I nodded. I would enjoy that with pasta. He shared stories about his grandchildren and how tiring but wonderful it was to keep up with them. His eyes softened and he paused before gently saying, "Forgive me, Linda, but you seem lighter today." I surprised myself and told him everything about Sarah, the email, the wedding, the money, and what I had done. When I finished, he neither judged nor tried to solve anything. Just said, sometimes the most difficult part of love is creating boundaries, especially with those we have given the most to. He reached across the table and briefly squeezed my hand. "I think you made the right choice. For the first time in ages, I truly believe that too." Returning to my desk, there were more calls, more messages, but I did not respond because I did not have to. For the first time, my silence conveyed everything. That evening, as I pulled into my driveway, the sky had already darkened. The porch light switched on by itself. Everything appeared calm and peaceful, yet someone was seated on my front steps. As I approached, I recognized her. It was Sophia. She stood up swiftly, brushing off imaginary dust from her coat. Sophia had been Sarah's closest friend since 5th grade. She spent innumerable weekends at our place, baking treats, watching movies, laughing together inside sleeping bags until morning. I had not seen her for years. "Mrs. Reynolds," she said quietly, "I am sorry to come by unannounced like this." "It is all right," I answered while opening the door. "Would you like some tea?" She followed me into the kitchen, her eyes searching the walls as if hoping to catch some lingering memories. I started boiling the water and waited. "Sarah sent you?" I finally asked. She hesitated before replying. "She is a disaster. They lost the location. The florist canceled. Michael's parents threatened to call off the wedding." I remained silent, placing 2 cups on the counter. "She is panicking," Sophia went on. "She knows she made mistakes, but does not know how to fix them." "Is this why you came?" I asked. "To help fix it?" She shook her head. "No, I am here to ask if there is anything she could say or do to make you change your mind." I hesitated. Could there be something? Would an apology heal the pain of being excluded? Used like a wallet? Told you are not welcome unless you bring money? I looked at Sophia still. Young and still filled with hope, I whispered, "No, there is not." She did not even lower her shoulder. "If she apologizes, I offered her a mug of tea." Words come easily. Sophia, especially when people feel desperate. But those who truly care for you do not wait until you shut them out to look for you. Sophia gazed down at her tea, nodding slowly. "I understand," she said. "Even if she does not, I am sorry, Mrs. Reynolds. You do not have to be," I answered. We paused in silence for a brief moment. 2 women from separate generations united by one tough truth. Sometimes love must have its boundaries. Sometimes the only way to be acknowledged is to step away. Sophia did not linger. She avoided any debate. She simply thanked me. embraced me softly, and walked back into the night. And I finally closed the door on a side of myself I had long since left behind. The wedding never took place, not as initially planned. They hurried to secure another location, but everything was either reserved or outrageously priced without the funds I had previously promised. According to Jason, they held a small backyard ceremony weeks afterward with just a few family members and Michael's parents. I was not invited, and this time I did not feel the need to be. In the weeks following, Sarah sent one last email, a lengthy one filled with emotion, part apology, part explanation. I read it once, then archived it. I no longer felt anger, just acceptance. There is a peculiar calm that comes from release, not fiery, but clear-headed. For the first time in many years, I awoke without wondering who required something from me. I decided I would no longer accept feelings of guilt dressed up as affection. I created a new guideline for myself. If my presence can be questioned, then my efforts can be too. I focus on my work, enjoy reading novels, and even enrolled in a pottery course. I spend time with friends who appreciate me for who I truly am, not just for what I can offer. Along the way, I discovered a valuable truth I wish I had realized earlier. You do not have to exhaust yourself to keep others comfortable. If this story touched a chord with you, feel free to share it, leave a comment, and be sure to like and subscribe. Sometimes, the most powerful form of love is the one you finally bestow upon yourself.